and welcome to this week's episode of the Endless Stream podcast. I am Aidan. I'm here as usual with Kevin and Brian. We are three artists, filmmakers, and all-round shit talkers who are going to take some of the endless stream of content that has been delivered to us through Disney Plus, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, YouTube, Spotify. Wherever content is delivered, we're going to watch a chunk of it and we're going to talk about it. Given the nature of these conversations, they are very spoiler heavy, so that's your warning. If you haven't watched The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, please go and give it a look and then come back and join the chat with us. If that doesn't bother you, just plow on with the podcast. If you like what you hear, please consider subscribing and giving us a follow over on Instagram or Twitter. All of our socials are at The Endless Cast. We do some illustrations to serve as the covers of each episode, so you can see those images and watch the playback videos of them over on Instagram. Introductions made, spoiler warning given, social medias plugged. There's a lot to talk about this week, so let's just jump right in. Finale week for The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We've got the second last episode of Invincible. Is there anything you guys want to talk about up front?
Did you say it was the second last episode of Invincibles?
Yeah, there's only one more.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think it's kind of building to what we were expecting, but we'll get into that a little bit later in the recording here. We got the trailer for Shang-Chi.
It's pronounced Shang-Chi.
Thank you very much, Brian.
You're welcome.
What'd you make of the trailer?
I thought it looked decent. I liked the Bill Pope cinematography, him of The Matrix and Spider-Man 1 and 2. So I liked how it looked. Yeah, kind of got to wait and see what the story's about, but I think it could be good. Looks interesting. Looking forward to it.
How do I say this without just sounding like an asshole? Just wire work. I just don't like people swinging around the place. You know, there's a couple of shots in there where people are just a little swinging.
You had watched it before me, and you said it looks very floaty, and I watched it, and there's only one floaty shot in it, and it's very deliberate, and it's a very, very deliberate Crouching Tiger hero homage. That's the only bit of floaty stuff in there, I thought, and it's very, very intentional. The rest of it is pretty straightforward kind of fight choreography. Because there's a lot of shots where they're in the air doing big spins and stuff, and like you can spot that stuff a mile away when it's too floaty. And it looks good. There's a shot where Tony Leung, I think, his character is spiraling through the air. He's obviously on wires or the stuntman is, but it doesn't look like it. You know, it looks pretty solid. I think the action looks pretty good. To be fair, I think the only time it looked floaty was when it was that kind of shot that looks like something. It's kind of got the color scheme of Hero with the kind of Crouching Tiger floaty stuff, which
What did you think about it in terms of like how we were discussing it the last time, the idea of the sort of the idea of tournament fight film? Did you get that sense in there? There's definitely a big ball cage at one point, but there's a lot of the rest of the world in there.
I'm not, this is not a criticism, but it's like I didn't get a huge sense of the storyline. It's like I feel like there's this like reading a synopsis and then watching the trailer would help. You know what I mean? Not that like kind of the trailer's confusing or anything. That it's not. It's just the fact that like kind of it doesn't allude to a lot of the story. However, I will say I think it's really exciting to a degree, and it's taken too long almost. Like obviously, like we grew up with comic books and stuff, and like X-Men in the 90s and all that kind of stuff. But it's taken a long time for like a new generation of heroes to capture people's attention. You know, we've been using Spider-Man and the X-Men and the Avengers for so long, and I know like Guardians of the Galaxy was one of those like new spin, not new spin, but like kind of like pushing their brand a bit more, or their franchise a bit more into different directions, you know? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we're just expanding out into the sort of Marvel canon, I guess.
Yeah, and not always using the same character. Yeah, and not always using the same characters, you know? It's nice that they're branding out into some more obscure characters to a degree.
Do you think there's any risk of losing people the more obscure we get with it? Because when you think about Marvel Comics as an entity, as a franchise, like there are these big core tentpole centerpiece characters, and then you know people are kind of aware that Shang-Chi exists out on the side somewhere, maybe, you know. Do you think?
I mean, like, you know, Iron Man, Cap, and Thor were only on comics fans, and they were never the most popular comics either, you know. not by a long shot.
I was just going to say, yeah, who are you going to lose? You know, people that don't know him, like kind of, for example, people that know him, they don't know who Drax is, don't know who Star-Lord is, you know. Those characters are really popular. Comic book fans, I think, for the most part, are just going to be happy they're making more comic book movies and branching out, you know. I think it's a good thing, to be fair. I don't see it as a negative at all, you know.
The box office, though, is built more on, like, MCU fans than comic fans.
Yes.
Like, the comic fans make up a portion of the audience, but the largest kind of box office receipts aren't coming from people reading the comics avidly. They're coming from people who just love those movies, you know, and that universe.
Yeah, and I think Shang-Chi can fit in there.
Definitely.
Know? Like, I think I said it to you guys during the week, where kind of like, you know, in terms of not being too familiar with the character, I wasn't too familiar with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think most people weren't familiar with the Guardians of the Galaxy. But like, kind of like, I really enjoyed the first movie and stuff. But like, kind of like, I'd have more of a kind of penchant for kung fu and martial arts movies than I would kind of the Guardians of the Galaxy type movies. So if you were to show me the two movies and be like, one's a cosmic adventure, one's like a, you know, a kung fu movie, I probably would have went for the kung fu movie.
Fair enough. Yeah.
In that sense, you know. So I should be like, in terms of not knowing the characters, I should be easier on board with the likes of Shang-Chi,
then
which I am.
Jumping off of the tournament fight film concept, Mortal Kombat came out there yesterday. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but I watched the opening scene they put up on YouTube.
I thought the opening scene looked great. Yeah, I thought it looked fantastic. Yeah, I thought it looked great. I don't think the rest of the film's going to match it, to be honest, but I'll check it out, definitely.
All right. Are your hopes a little bit dashed, Brian, from reviews and stuff? Because I heard it's not receiving the best reviews. I know you were quite excited.
I think it's very telling when they release a scene like that, 7 minutes.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you want to get ahead of, you know, the bad reviews, essentially, because, you know, enough people at the studio have watched it and kind of thought, this isn't going to do well, kind of word of mouth. But if people will just give it a chance and check it out first.
If people have already started watching it, they might be inclined to watch the rest of it. Is that it?
Yeah. And that's exactly it. Like, I'm going to watch it later, basically. But if I hadn't have watched that scene and I'd heard kind of negative stuff, I'd be like, I'm not in any hurry to check it out. But I'll probably check it out maybe later today. Myself and my brother, I think we're going to attempt to refill my punching bag, which is pain in the hole. We're going to drink some beer while we do that, and then we're going to maybe watch Mortal Kombat. Yeah, so
perfect day, pal.
Very good.
Yeah, beautiful.
Would you go back and watch the 95, 97 one? What was the year? Was it 95?
What do you mean go back
in time, Brian?
You say that like I don't watch it once a week.
Brian, do you watch it once a week?
I've got a very soft spot for it. It's the soundtrack. The soundtrack from it is imprinted in my brain.
Yes, I actually do have memories of, and I think I must ask my brothers would they remember it. I do have memories of being in Dublin visiting my auntie, and we you know, my auntie was always in our house growing up, in the Midlands, and then we would visit her occasionally up in Dublin, and we would go to her video place and we'd rent some movies, and I believe we may have rented Mortal Kombat. I want to say the first one, because that ends with your man rising up and them all getting ready to fight. And I think we rented some of the cartoon that was out at the time. I think it was like the cartoon might have been PG-12s or something. We were very young, when we did it. But I do remember you know, oh god, yeah, I loved the movie back in the day and stuff for sure.
It is funny to think that these things that, like, you know, when we say about, you know, Iron Man and Thor and whatever not being the big figurehead characters in the same way that, like, yeah, there were these characters out there like Mortal Kombat that had an audience, and somebody obviously thought, maybe if we make some cartoons of this, or if we make a movie of this, people will get it, and they were shocking.
There was a traveling musical show as well
of Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, so basically it was like a kind of like a dance musical infused with martial arts, and they went traveling and stuff all around America. And I think it was awful, but like they did TV spots and everything. It's very hard to find stuff about it. But the characters on the stage, or the actors, didn't record, or they all the dialogue was pre-recorded so they could focus on their dancing and their kung fu as they're fighting, and they were trying to collect amulets to fight the bad guy. And during the show they were like, you can help us fight the bad guy by going to concession stands and buying your Mortal Kombat amulet. So it was like I watched a video the other day, I must send it to you guys actually, about lost media, and it's talking about the lost media of Mortal Kombat, the different games that never came to fruition, the crossovers, the different things, and the musical show was one of them. And there's a Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter game coming out apparently.
The Mortal Kombat games, beyond the first one, beyond being 8 years old and knowing that Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat exist and that there's two different flavors to this, and like I played both of them, but I kind of preferred Street Fighter. As they've evolved and grown further on, like I have no interest in a Mortal Kombat game. I don't get into the sort of the fetishization of the violence and the tearing of people's heads.
I'm the same. It's they're pretty goofy, but then also at the same time, like all of the characters that they've introduced, they've given like these kind of extensive background stories too. So it's this weird thing where it's extremely violent, but it's kind of cheesy, but it's also taking itself a bit seriously as well. And I just zero interest in it.
You know what though? I actually, in terms of people I know who play computer games and stuff, and casual gamers, I'd say for the most part, there's a good handful of casual gamers that I know that like all about Mortal Kombat. They might have like the Switch or something and they play a bit Mario Kart, but they'll play Mortal Kombat. And I know a good few lads that still love those games. I don't personally myself. I do like when you see like the likes of I don't know, like Spawn, Jason Voorhees, and like different characters being brought into it, because it's just different and cool to see it. Like,
is Rambo in it now?
Rambo's in it.
The Terminator.
I take back what I said.
RoboCop.
I'm on board.
I did think Joker was a little bit of a stretch. Joker's in it, isn't he?
He's in the Injustice games, and there's a crossover then I think between those games, and he was probably in some, but they're both made by the same studio, so
they were meant to have Ash.
There was probably some point where he's in it.
Night of the Living, or not?
Evil Dead.
Oh my, Evil Dead. Sorry, yeah, my God. Yeah. They were meant to have Ash from Evil Dead at one stage. They were meant to have Ash, and it just fell through. But that would have been I like stuff like that to a degree, but it doesn't propel me to play the games at all. I think back in the day, I found beat 'em ups were probably one of my favorite types of genres of video games, and I found them so satisfying to play. Now I don't. They've removed basically all the elements that I've really liked. You know, like
I think that the thing that I really loved about them was like the 2D animated sprites.
Yes,
it's just really fun to kind of watch that. The second it became,
3D over the
3D
top
and stuff, like I play them, I enjoy them for a bit, but after about a week, I'm so done, because like I'm not a hardcore kind of fighting game person. You play with a friend if somebody calls over, but beyond that, no interest. But as a kid, watching those 2D sprites and doing all that stuff, it never got old. Just kind of.
There was something about the simplicity. Like, this is definitely three old dudes bitching about the way it used to be, but like I fell off it in the 3D stuff. Like, they tried to do the 3D Street Fighter games where you could actually step into the 3 dimensions. Then they're using basically 3D sprites. I don't know if they actually converted the sprites or if they're 3D rendering these things, but like the combos, the effects, the attacks became so overwhelming for me in terms of like, there's fucking special effects surrounding them, and then it's fucking jumping up 4 stories, bursting through fucking ceilings, and it's like,
I don't mind that as much.
Fireball, I like to fire.
I still kind of like that.
I think there's an element of like, but I think there's an element of the game started out kind of like where everybody was like especially like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, but the game started out and they're a little bit more simple. Of course, you have finishers and kind of button combinations and stuff, but now it's just like when you play the games, it feels like it's only the really competitive hardcore players that can pull half of the shit off. It's a little bit too convoluted.
What I'm responding, or what I think I'm reacting to when that happens, is that like, when it's just you and the other character and you're punch kicking, it feels claustrophobic and it feels heavy. And then essentially when you get something impressive happening, it just feels like a quick time event you triggered, and you just sit back and watch a movie unfold, and I don't feel involved in that. So I either feel claustrophobic or uninvolved.
Yeah. What are you saying, Brian? It's not your experience.
Yeah, no, like from like the last couple of games I played, it's the
Yeah, we were pretty good at them. I'm terrible.
I wouldn't say so. I mean, the moves are straightforward enough. It's
I was never able to do them.
Like I mean, the last one I played would have been Street Fighter 5. If you're talking about like those kind of big finishing moves, and if you watch pros play, like they don't rely on that stuff at all. Like the technical stuff, it's down to like knowing where the hitboxes on characters are, like what frames certain moves takes, all this kind of stuff. That's where it gets really, really fucking insanely technical. You don't need those big moves. They're not even as a last resort. They're just, if you watch any kind of pro matches, people tend to not use them or save them because they're much more about blocking, parrying, knowing,
Combination,
all that kind of technical stuff.
Actual, yeah. I was going to say though, like I think because Brian and I were talking about this recently. I can't remember why we were talking about it, Brian. Maybe we were saying it in the group chat, but we were talking about the different games. And like I think the newest Guilty Gear. Now I'm not into beating up stuff. We were just talking about it, and I just happened to see Guilty Gear come across something, but it's still 2D and it looks incredible. It looks
it's
so
3D
good.
though.
Is it 3D?
It's 3D, but they've trying to keep the
Yes,
hand drawn style though. Yeah.
Yeah, but like even kind of whatever way, but it looks incredible anyways, and it still has that kind of same old feeling. And I just don't understand why they don't do that with Street Fighter, because you're literally giving everybody what they want.
The amount of the kind of crossover on like my social media between like following illustrators and then illustrators who like fighting games and like kind of particularly, I mean that there's a sizable enough kind of audience that daily talk about Bengus and Akiman and Nishimura, like these Capcom artists that did the 2D character designs from 20, 30 years ago, whatever it was. And people still love those designs. They're still people's favorite versions of anything. And it just seems like a no-brainer to me to make something, even if it's 3D, because it's kind of more efficient to make it in 3D, but base it on preserving the aesthetic of those designs, If they made a Marvel versus Capcom again with those designs, like those are the best versions of those Marvel characters. I think those illustrations are
Marvel versus Capcom stuff.
Yeah,
they were so good.
The Sabretooth and Venom in particular, like where they've interpreted those characters is just
I want to say
perfect.
I want to say Omega Red was in it as well. I thought he was pretty cool. Yeah.
Design is so ridiculous. I was watching.
I love it.
I was looking at an artist during the week that was like, I can't remember the name of the artist, but it so normalized the stature of Omega Red and the other Omega. I guess there's a family of Omega villains. I'm just not up enough on my X-Men. That's something I'm going to sort of resign myself to do. Is I've got the Marvel app now. I'm going to dig into some old X-Men books, but thinking back to that sort of 90s Jim Lee era, like Omega Red was just and there was close up of like just cross hatching and metal and rendering.
There's a great Wolverine movie to be made in the style of the Winter Soldier with Omega Red as the villain. That's I can't wait to see Omega Red on screen if they do it. If they get the parts of it that are this pale white thing with this shock of blonde hair, and essentially it's got like the tentacles are essentially like extendable claws, like with the Force you can kind of use them with. Just imagine the Winter Soldier, but instead of Cap and Bucky, you've got Wolverine and Omega Red. That's make that film. That's a great movie. Make it. I'll make it. Let me make it. I'll make it. Look, I'll do it. Fine, I'll do it.
What did you think? Because I think Aiden sent it to the group chat. What did you think of that guy who was talking about casting Wolverine, and they're potentially talking about the guy from the Kingsmen and stuff?
I've heard that a while back.
I don't.
That's
I
not.
like
that's
that
not the
actor,
first time.
So I don't really. He might be a little bit too young, to a degree, because I just don't associate Wolverine with being that young. But
I don't think he is at this point.
But I was just going to say.
I think you think of him as young, but Kingsman's a good few years ago now, and I think,
True.
like he's played Elton John and such.
Yeah, but I like him. I think he's a good actor, anyways, and I don't hate that casting.
Yeah. I mean, I sent another thing to you through which reminded me of the idea that this is a thing in the comics. I don't know how much anything is canon at this point, but the idea that Wolverine is Weapon X, and we've drawn that connection of Weapon X to X-Men, was always the assumption. But somebody figured out you could make that a 10 and designate Captain America as Weapon 1.
Mm.
And the comic books did. I think it is even Mark Miller. They have a Weapon 13 or something like that. You know, the guy in the white.
I think there's a version where Nightcrawler even is a weapon or some kind.
Is one of those weapons.
So yeah, maybe it was just a kind of a once-off type story, but they've done that before.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It's hard to know what's consistent canon and what's concept, but like, I mean, given that we've got Isaiah Bradley in the mix as Weapon 5 or something, and
I thought
Winter Soldier is some in the middle.
Was Isaiah not before Captain? Did Isaiah not get the Super Serum Soldier before Captain America?
No, it was after.
I would have thought it was before, and I thought Red Skull was before Captain America.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have been part of the same program. Same serum, but it would have been a different.
Oh, yes. Okay, I understand. Sorry. Yeah.
But it is an interesting, like, I don't think they'd go that way, but it is an interesting idea that you could get to Wolverine through the Super Soldier program.
I mean, we've already gotten the Hulk through. The Hulk experiments in the MCU were an attempt to recreate the Super Soldier. Like, so they've already kind of started that.
It wasn't like they use like, what was the term? They use like friction or fraction rays or something to get Captain America. But then when Bruce Banner was kind of redoing the procedure or whatever, he used gamma rays.
Gamma rays, yeah. And the Vita rays, weren't
Vita rays, that's it, yeah.
PS Vita rays.
Yeah.
So we were talking about Mortal Kombat, basically, and we wandered off into the X-Men and everything.
Oh, God.
Just running through a few things that sort of came out, I guess, this week. I saw the trailer for Love, Death and Robots Season 2, which is Netflix's anthology show with a bunch of animators making different short films. I can't remember what the runtime was in Season 1, but they were definitely, 10 minutes to half an hour episodes?
I don't think there was any longer than 22 minutes.
Oh, I've never watched it.
I thought you had, Kev, no?
No, I think, like... I love, like, I know this sounds really bizarre. Like, anthologies type of series are kind of one of my favorites, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I love Twilight Zone, I love all that kind of stuff. And most forms of it I really like. I've not watched it, and I don't know why. I think I heard just, like, really mixed opinions about it. Like, I heard, like, some stuff like, maybe one episode was good.
There's one I think is standout, like, hands down, phenomenal. It's based on a great story, and there's a great artist directed it. Zima Blue. The story of Zima Blue was written by this. I've only heard of his stuff through the anthology, but it's really interesting British sci-fi author. And Zima Blue is adapted from one of his stories in a kind of series of short sci-fi stories, basically in a book he wrote. And that one is directed by Robert Valley, and he's got this
Robert Valley. Yeah, I know him. He did some Wonder Woman stuff as well.
Gorgeous stuff, like just. But like a perfect kind of union between his art style and the subject matter, which is about this artist who does these kind of blue pieces, but like on a cosmic kind of intergalactic scale, and it's amazing. And then a second one that I really liked, the direction isn't as good, but the story, it's by the same author. So the story is really, really solid. The writing in the adapting of it is it's not bad. It's just a little, could do with a bit of tweaking, and it's directed in a completely different style. Absolutely amazing visuals. But
what's the name of the second one?
That one is Beyond the Aquila Rift, and it's a horror one, and the ending of it is...
Oh, say nothing. I'll watch it.
Watch it. It's one of my favorite horror things. It just in the last couple of seconds, the last seconds of it are just horrifying, and it's so
great,
good.
Yeah, I saw that one, and I think that might be the last one I watched, because I watched it and was like, I don't like this. And
It's so good. It's like, and got a lot of flack because there's a lot of gratuitous nudity in a lot of them, and in that story there's a bit of that too. There's got like these two photoreal CG things humping, but if you get past that part of it, it's worth it. Like the ending is one of my favorite horror endings in anything. And
there was a fair amount of sort of gratuitous nudity in these things, and people. What was the one by Alberto Mielgo with the woman running from
the
the
witness?
murderer?
Yeah, like looks phenomenal. He's kind of a bit of a creep. I'd still recommend checking it out because it looks
like his artwork is gorgeous, and he was involved with Into the Spider-Verse early on as well. But like he's
a creep.
Yeah, he's a bit.
He's a creep.
I don't know. He's gratuitously sexual in his. Is it gratuitous? The way he lives his life is pretty out there and open about how he goes around hooking up with people and doing oil paintings of the people he's hooked up with in the nude.
He's a creep.
Who's this?
Alberto
Mielgo.
I don't know.
And he did early concept stuff and board stuff. Like it does feel like he was pretty involved in setting up the Spider-Verse stuff.
Definitely.
But he then seems to have been. Like
he was fired.
I don't know if he was his contract wasn't renewed.
He was fired.
This is the line that was played.
He was
like
fired.
For somebody that was that involved with a production, you would imagine he would just keep being involved.
He was
at a certain
fired.
point they just said, "And that's enough for you," and they didn't renew the contract. Then it's Nick Kondo is the other guy on that, and Robert Valley. There's a crossover between all these guys and like Tron Uprising as well.
Mm-hmm.
They make lovely looking stuff. There's a bunch of nudity in the first thing, but then if you go to a film festival and watch the animated short series, and you see a lot of like nudity and weird topics that
it wasn't
just maybe aren't necessarily used to seeing in their Netflix series.
I don't think it was the nudity was the problem though. It was the tone. Like the first. I think the order actually when I've gone back and changed, or when I've gone back and watched it, the order of the episodes was different. So I don't know if Netflix changed the order, but the one that comes up first, I think it's maybe called Sonny's Game or something like that. It's about these people that they psychically connect with these like bioengineered monsters and then get in a cage fight. And the character that they're talking about, she's like the best fighter because she was like brutally gang raped or something, and she brings her rage into when she connects with them on, and it was just the most tone deaf, clearly written by a bunch of dudes bullshit. So it's not even it's not the fact that there was a lesbian sex scene, it's the fact that there's clearly no women writing a lot of these stories, you know. I don't think the sex wasn't the problem, it was the tone.
It was
stuff. Because like the thing is that
objectification and victimization.
Yeah.
Even then the way they ordered them, so you kind of got that series got front loaded with it, so you're 4 in and you're going, they don't really like women in this show, do they?
Well, you see, that's probably why I have you know what I mean? Like, Brian might have said so much in the past to me and stuff, and I was like, why would I watch that? But
like there's another great one with the astronaut who it's got kind of shades of Gravity, kind of the Sandra Bullock film. And she basically ends up, I won't spoil it, but like she's in outer space and she's got to think fast to survive. And that was a really good one, you know. I think it's worth watching everything for the art alone. You know, it's just a shame that I think they acknowledged it themselves, like afterwards, you know, like they didn't have necessarily.
So curious to see what season 2 brings then, you know.
Yeah. It's made by Blur
Nice
Studios,
stuff in the
Kev, like, or a lot of it is, you know, so. Or rather, it's made by Tim Miller, who he kind of oversees the series.
So there might be somebody kind of curating it a bit more this time.
Hopefully, yeah.
Getting a sense of what the whole like.
He acknowledged after the first one came out that, you know, that it's not the strongest in some areas and that they're going to do better if they get to do a second one. So I'm excited to see if they do.
Because it's a lovely concept to give
fantastic.
Animated directors and artists this little sandbox to make
this thing,
random
like
stuff
you know. Some people didn't really like the Animatrix when it first came out, but I love going back and watching it. It's like I loved it because it was tied to the Matrix, first of all. But when you go back and watch it, just the fact that there's this collection of animated stuff that it's loosely related to the Matrix. The Matrix is just the reason it got made, basically. When at the end of the day, it's just a brilliant collection of shorts where you don't get to see stuff produced to that quality that isn't like a feature length, or, you know, if it is made to that quality, it's
doesn't get the same exposure or something.
Yeah, or it doesn't tell those type of stories, So
I was going to say, I do, like, to be honest, I remember, like, kind of my older brother now was a huge Matrix fan, and would have watched it when we were kids quite a bit. But I think in terms of my love for that kind of franchise, it cut off after the Animatrix. I didn't really like Matrix 2 and 3, but I really hold Animatrix in high regard in terms of just, like, there's that one story of a racer running.
I love that so much.
And, like, he's breaking through the limits of his own kind of...
It's incredible.
Oh.
But even that one, like, the style and the look, I remember when that came out first, and I had to tell people, like, no, this is good. And they're like, ugh, I hate how it looks and I hate the story. I was just like, are we watching watching the same episode?
This is a thing I haven't seen before.
Phenomenal.
I can't deal with it.
Yeah. Because we would have been in IADT at the time when that came out. So, like, talking with other animators and people in our college, and they're going, this is ugly and I don't like it. It's like,
isn't it
what?
Like one of the episodes, the kids find kind of a glitch in the Matrix.
Yeah.
And, like, it's like there's a cat floating in the air or something.
Yeah.
You see, I kind of remember that, like, as in I must have watched that, like, only a couple of years ago. But I actually watched that probably...
If you take out the Matrix aspect of it, it's basically a bunch of kids find a haunted house.
Yeah, yeah.
But the reason for all those things happening is that it's this space in the Matrix that is glitching. But that's what I loved about the Matrix universe itself, was that pretty much all of the things within, like the stories we tell, ghost stories, mythology, whatever it is, there's a reason for all of it.
Yes, but that's kind of like it's kind of like how I've never thought about it up until now, but it's like how my opinion about Star Wars is: you have a complete universe with multiple planets, multiple races and species, and you name it, like there's a whole like universe of diverse storytelling that you could do, and it's like the Matrix. It's like it's a pity that the Matrix hasn't kind of had more of like kind of different chapters, different characters, different incidences. Like why couldn't they? Why couldn't they kind of have a Matrix spin-off or something that's basically essentially like a horror movie? Like, why couldn't they do stuff like that? Like, it's like the Matrix is an entire world in itself. It doesn't always have to be focused around... maybe people don't like that stuff, because even in Star Wars, they always try to bring it back to Luke Skywalker and things, where I like kind of Rogue One. I still think that's like the best Star Wars movie since the original ones from the 70s and 80s. But yeah, it's like maybe people don't want to hear those stories, but I suppose that's why the Animatrix is great.
We've been talking about animation so much recently because of these episodes and stuff, I guess. And it just really has kind of made me think about the Animatrix a lot more, just especially because like the violence, let's say in Invincible, where Omni-Man crushes... I can't remember which character. Whose skull did it crush?
I want to say...
Is it the Flash type character?
I think it was the Fast guy.
Yeah. But I remember in the first story in... I think it's the first episode in the Animatrix, and it's about the Zion Archives kind of like detailing human history, and it's explaining how the whole war kicked off. And it's to do with the robot butler who he's being replaced and he doesn't want to be replaced. So he kills his owners. And do you remember that when he crushes their skull? And it is so visceral, the violence of it. Do you remember?
I don't remember.
I remember it shocking me.
Yeah.
more than anything I've ever seen in a film. But that really, like, I was pretty... I mean, how old was I by then? I was at least 19 or 20, I think, by the time I saw that, So I was kind of well used to seeing violent things, and that shocked me so much. And it's... I don't know which came first. I know they released a few comics, and there's a Jeff Darrow story, which is about that, which is this robot butler, essentially. He's being replaced with a new model, and he doesn't want to, so he kills his... people that own him effectively, and that this starts this kind of whole trial. And he says he just didn't want to be destroyed effectively. But Jeff Darrow's stuff, like, it's very detailed, and he's capable of drawing like these very detailed kind of scenes of violence.
Okay, yeah.
So I think it was based on a frame or a panel from the comic he did where, like, you know, he crushes the human skull in his hands,
Brutal,
and then they animated it for that episode of the Animatrix, and I remember I remember like literally gasping and kind of pausing it because I needed a moment. I was like, what the fuck? But yeah, anytime I see kind of like violence to that kind of detailed extents, like, because a lot of the time when you see violent stuff in cartoons, it's just like a splash of blood. Like there's not viscera, you know, there's not like hearts and
like
eyeballs.
Growing up, it was always robots, wasn't it? It's like cartoons could be as violent as you want as long as they were shooting rays and killing robots.
Yeah, but like this isn't just like, it's not just like red when he crushes the skull. Like the eyeball bulges first, the brain pops. Like it's detailed,
grotesque.
Yeah, and I really needed a moment. I was like, what the fuck? But yeah, you know, a lot of the violence in Invincible reminds me of that, because it's going for that kind of shock, you know, in terms of it being detailed.
I've started reading a book recently, and it's called Ultra Mega, and now it is a bit of a, you know, it's all about kind of kaiju's, big monsters kind of attacking Earth and create a virus that infects other people and turns them into kaiju's. But then some cosmic element came down and kind of bestowed power on a select few humans who could kind of like transform into Ultra Mega and take on these kaiju's.
So it's like Ultraman.
Pardon?
So it's like Ultraman.
Yes. Okay. But it's I'm pretty sure it's American.
Yeah.
And James Harren is I think James is the author and artist on the book. You know, I just love it. It's like I don't want to give away too much, but there's stuff that happens in the book that is just like it may have crossed my mind, but I've never actually seen anybody do it. You know. One of the scenes in the book is basically a big monster dies and it's decapitated or something, and of course if something dies it's going to bleed, you know, but this monster is huge, so it ends up bleeding out and flooding the city. You know, it's insane. Like, and then the second book kind of jumps forward as far as I know, it kind of jumps forward a little bit in time about like kind of there's like kind of it's X amount of years later, and there's like technically a truce and stuff, but it's a really, really good book, and like the art is insane, so good. Storytelling's fantastic, but the art's insane. Considering like just one guy is like writing and drawing it, it's just I love seeing more kind of creator owned content like that. I think as I grow older, like I do love Marvel and all that kind of stuff, but I'm always really drawn to like kind of those like creator owned books, even if they're publishing it through Image or whoever.
I've always bought comics for like artwork first, story second, you know. As much as I love like superheroes and stuff like that, I'm interested in them first primarily as like I want to see kind of cool artwork and stuff. So it's great to see stuff written by the artists like that are, you know, actually illustrating the books as well. It's kind of cool to see them just be really expressive with the type of stories that interest them, and then draw them in the way that is kind of truest to their
like
their inclinations.
Looking at Ultra Mega, it's just like I'd say it's digital. I'd say it must be digital. I could be wrong, but I'd say it's digital because like there's an aspect of kind of like you can see him kind of like, you know, blasting down the lines into shapes and forms and stuff, then putting in a load of shadow and then reworking it into the shadow with like an eraser. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, and I love that. I love when like you kind of see artists working in the black and stuff, and obviously this guy can do what he wants. They're his characters, it's his story, it's his world, and it's like so many shots in it. Like they could be essentially basic enough, but they're just done so well. And I love when like comics aren't necessarily like big blockbuster type action and everything's stylized and detailed and blah blah, you know. I like kind of when some books take more of a subtle approach to certain things, you know. It's like what's his name, Headlopper, Andrew McLean.
Mm-hmm.
His approach is great. Like I love his style and like kind of how he draws some panels. They're so basic, you know. but they're so effective, and I love that.
Less
is more.
That's the thing. Like, yeah, they're basic, but I mean, when you look at him kind of drawing and creating that stuff, they're so complex.
Oh,
like
yeah.
To break down the action that's taking place in those panels into the kind of forms and shapes that he's breaking them down into, and for them to still read. It looks so simple, but it's so technical, you know.
Yes, of course.
So complex,
Yeah.
It's
Oh, like
incredible.
I always say, like it's like Mignola. It's just like, if you give me, like, say, you can, copy this artist, or you can copy this artist, and you give me Mignola versus like some more generic style. It'd be much easier to replicate the generic style. Doing those simple forms and keeping things a little bit cleaner, and kind of quality over quantity to a degree, but it's like it's so hard to do. It's so hard to do. Reducing images down to where it's like the bare essentials reads really well and looks good. It's so difficult. That's why Jupiter's Legacy, the Netflix show that comes out in May, I think, the prequel issues. There was the original first two issues, and then they released like kind of technically 1 and 2 before it. So those first two issues became 3 and 4. But a guy called Torres does those books, and it's just beautiful. God Almighty, I could look at his artwork all day. It has a real kind of like golden age 50s vibe to a degree, but like it's like he's looking at reference to it. He's obviously looking at reference, but his interpretation of it, it's just so it's like it's realistic, but it's so simple and beautiful. I love it. I love it.
Is that Wilfredo Torres? Is it? Or?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, follow him on Instagram. He does these. I think he did like he did this series on Instagram before. It was like Black Horror History Month or something, and it was about like black characters and actors like in horror cinema, basically. But he did it in like he kind of reminds me a little bit of like stuff like Darwin Cook. He's kind of that classic kind of style.
Yeah, that kind of retro, kind of like Alex Ross. Do you know that kind of way? Do you know what I mean? That kind of golden era kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, I guess that really naturally brings us into Invincible. What did you make of last night's episode then?
I liked it more, again, because I'm more listening to it in the background than actually looking at the screen. So I'm less bothered by maybe the quality of these episodes has been better. I haven't noticed because I've been looking at a different screen while I'm engaging with the story in the background.
This is undermining a lot of your credibility here. It's great as long as you don't watch it.
Not at all. No, it's actually not. It's actually proving my point that I liked the show better when I'm not looking at its cruddy visuals. Oof. It's not undermining my point at all. It's actually bolstering my point that I enjoy the show more when I'm not looking at it.
Kevin?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. Yeah. It's a different approach. It's kind of it's kind of a very different approach in the comics and stuff. But I do enjoy it. I think it's good.
So what did you think of that arc for Robot then? Like the Mauler twins?
Well, I now know why Mantzoukas is really overplaying Rex so that he's got somewhere to go when he's doing Rudy, so that they're differentiated enough.
I think it's a different actor doing the voice of Rudy.
Don't know. Well, if it is, I don't think it is though.
I thought for some reason I thought it was a different actor doing the voice of Rudy. Could be completely wrong, but I know what you're saying now, Brian. Just in contrast of his range.
Yeah. But even I did see Ross Marquand in the credits, and he's the guy who did Red Skull in Endgame. So it's possible he's doing an impression of Mantzoukas when he's doing Rudy, but it's still the point that he's doing Rex to a really extreme degree, so that there's somewhere to fall below to do Rudy.
So Marquand is voicing who?
I know he was in the episode, but I don't know who he.
I think he's the Immortal.
Okay, right. Okay.
I did notice Marquand there because he pops up on a podcast I listen to, and he was funny in Doug Loves Movies, and he does impressions and voices and stuff. They then mentioned he was in The Walking Dead, and then I was watching The Walking Dead and was like, oh, that's that person. So it kind of made me aware of him. That podcast made me aware of him as a performer, which then made me notice that he does voice work a bunch. And
he's doing Rudy as well, according to IMDb.
that's weird.
Yeah. Yeah,
That
it's
is
very
weird.
strange.
They've got Mantzoukas for
Yeah.
one. I wonder if they'll keep using Quinto for Robot, or if they'll fade him out, because
Probably not.
the little like clone, or the little like organism version of Rudy, like his voice needed to be interpreted through the machine. It needed to come from somewhere, because his communication was always kind of quasi telepathic, I guess. I liked a lot of this episode. I liked a lot of the violence. Like Omni-Man got a chance to be like, when he's talking to William in the car, like I like that little like that scene. That at this point William knows Omni-Man is Mark's dad, and he's still like his best friend's dad, but he's also capable of smushing you into paste. You know, there's a nice tension in that moment.
I love the Immortals, the Immortal stuff, like just him being a kind of like a Viking or whatever, that kind of Celt type of character.
And Abraham Lincoln.
But I do love the it's like Hellboys. Give me a character like that. Give me a character that transcends time. I love it. Highlander, love it. You know, but I just feel like there's so much for the Immortal.
Highlander's coming to Netflix soon, just so you know.
Pardon?
Highlander is coming to Netflix soon, just so you know.
A new
It's
thing?
been on it before and it's coming back.
Oh.
No, just the film. Yeah.
Cool. My girlfriend's gonna love that.
I got a I don't know whether it was a Blu-ray, a Highlander, or whatever. I got a really good quality version of it, and I remember watching the end of it. And when the quickening happens the final time, and he raises into the air, the quality of the picture was so good you could see the cables. You could just see him being lifted. It was pretty funny.
My friend's an actor. He's in the same agency as Christopher Lambert. And Steve,
Raiden from Mortal Kombat.
And Steve Guttenberg.
Raiden.
Whatever his name is.
There's a shot where Omni-Man is flying, and it's like a horizontal still image. They're doing the like 70s.
I turned back,
and then he does a real Hanna-Barbera head to the camera. Fourth wall break. They're like, you wouldn't dare. Like it's a real Scooby-Doo or like moment. Or like, oh god, what was the Captain Caveman kind of flying along where you say, I think this guy's gonna it's just a real mug to the camera kind of moment. Which didn't really help some of the criticisms this show gets. Were they taking the piss out of themselves when he goes to tell Amber I'm invincible and the door closed in his face, and it didn't cut to the credit title? He just goes, but Amber, I'm in, and the door closes, and like,
yeah, I don't know. It's just I think Brian called it from day one. It's just not working. It's really bad.
It's just,
I think it was Brian.
Well, I mean, their own Twitter account was giving themselves shit over it.
I know.
I don't know whether they were trying to point out the fact that they know it's not working, or they were, they think it's working so much that they can drop it anywhere. Did Amber's reaction to him being invincible make sense to you?
Made no sense. None.
Made no sense.
No
like
sense.
In the comic book, when she finds out now,
like the thing is, she's like, I've known, and you keep lying to me, but I'm only breaking up because it looked like you abandoned us. Like her the intensity she's coming to it with is because it looked like he was abandoning her. Like she gives him shit for abandoning them. It's just like, but you've known for weeks he's a superhero, so what the fuck is? Yeah, that makes zero sense. I'm going to give you shit for abandoning us. I'm going to call you a liar, even though I'm pretending that I don't know your secret. So like, isn't.
I know this is going to be probably like, for all of our 3 listeners, but I always
in this morning's immediate download,
yes.
the other 50,000 will be downloading as the day progresses.
But what I was going to say is, it's like, it kind of annoys me the way female characters and their logic is written and stuff. And a lot of times it's just like, and I always, for example, it's not the same, but for example, it's like Skye in Breaking Bad. She is completely rational, normal, sane person. She's the only rational, sane person in it. It's just like, why are they vilifying her? Why do people represent her? And it's like,
I don't think they did vilify her though. That's the thing. I think it's just the audience didn't like her because she was getting in the way of their power fantasy. I think they wrote her realistically.
Well, like I guess it's both, really, isn't it? To a degree, as in like, yeah, it is like, because like the audience obviously did have an issue with That's what I'm saying. It's kind of the same, but it's not the same. But it's like the way they're interpreted, the way they're written and stuff. But it's just like, yeah, Amber in Invincible. It's just kind of like she's like, up until this point, she's been really smart and smarter than Mark and all that kind of stuff, and far more logical. And she's like, you know, obviously a very self-aware person. She's helping the needy. She's incredible, you know. But it's just like, where does this like lump of just like logic come from? It's just so ridiculous.
If we try and compare it to the comic, and I'm trying to remember it,
okay,
because having her say I figured it out weeks ago is like, great. She's a smart, she's savvy, she's whatever. And in the comic books, they do that as well. Amber is confused, just starts trying to piece things together, and eventually she twigs, oh, he's invincible. And they have a moment where he comes to confess that he's invincible, and she beats him to it and goes, you're invincible. Just tell me you're invincible. Like, you're a superhero. And she's like, oh, I fucking figured this out. Now we can proceed on a basis of honesty and whatever. But Mark cheats on her then.
Yeah.
And I think they're just trying to get the breakup out of the way immediately so that they can just get him on to the Adam Eve arc. But they're just trying to... It's just kind of clumsy, because the logic makes no sense. If you know he's a superhero, and you know he's risking his life, just say, hey, I know you're invincible. Can you just tell me honestly where you are at any given time?
Yeah, you could understand that. It's just like, kind of, there'd be more logic to that. And if he was uncomfortable then with that, you could be like, well, that's fair enough. But like, if you are a superhero, this is kind of responsibilities and consequences of being that, you know. But it's just like, yeah, I just don't understand why. Like, it's like, you abandoned us, and it's just like, do you realize though, he was the guy in the costume fighting the killer robot? Like, it's I don't know, it's poor writing to a degree, isn't it?
I liked what Cecil got to do in the sequence. I like his sort of bopping around encounter was kind of cool. There was a moment where like I realized like, oh, that's Walton Goggins. And there was part of me that's like, I kind of wish, as you put Jeffrey Donovan, isn't that his name, from Burn Notice? As you put him in this show anyway, why isn't he the super spy guy? I kind of wanted him there in that moment. I don't think, has anybody ever said I wanted Jeffrey Donovan around more?
Burn Notice is a bad show, Aidan.
It's
a bad show, and people don't want to remember it. That's why.
Gabrielle Anwar's Irish accent is top notch. She's an IRA terrorist. It wasn't
enough to save the show. It's a bad show. It's a very bad show.
It's got Bruce Campbell in it. He's chubby and drunk. 9 seasons. You can't be wrong with
9. Good God.
7 or 9. Yeah, that show ran. It had legs. They made a movie. They made a spin-off movie for Bruce Campbell.
Actually, I was going to say to you, this has come into my mind so much, and it's a bit of a, maybe it's a segue into the Falcon and Winter Soldier. Was it Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that kept on going like, it's all connected? And there was that whole period of people saying it's all connected. I fucking hated it.
Yes.
What was it, of a meme that came out of the show, was it?
Yeah.
I think it was the writers of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and stuff. They were kind of trying to say it's all connected. And they were writing, as the MCU was progressing, they were kind of writing elements that worked for the show that kind of connected it, but it never actually really did. Am I completely wrong? Was that not a thing that people are saying all the time? It's all connected.
It was in the you know, like stings for the next episode or something, or for the little kind of breaks for the show, saying like,
yeah, I hated
this
it.
arc is coming up and it's all connected, was like the line that the kind of studio used.
I didn't watch enough of that show to spot memery. Just to, I guess, wrap up Invincible though. Mm-hmm. Like that episode was mostly about Omni-Man and throwing shit at him. The satellite scene was pretty good.
I like the scene with the invisible soldiers in his house.
That was, oh my god, when he threw the woman out of the window and she landed and started to crawl away,
and her legs are backwards,
twisted 180.
Yes,
that was gross.
Yeah, it was gross. Yeah.
Were you nonplussed, Brian? It's fine. You weren't watching it. You didn't see it.
I wasn't looking at that.
You didn't see it. You weren't looking at the screen.
I saw the invisible soldiers and I was like, well, I know what's going to happen here now. He's just going to murder them.
Then you made a coffee, came back, credits were rolling.
When I mean it's on in the background, like it's on in the room, and I glance over.
No, that's fair. Yeah,
every so often, and I'm following it. I'm following it. I'm keeping up with the story. It's just I'm not looking at it every couple of seconds.
You're a busy guy. Sure. You got stuff going on.
But I do like it more when I'm looking at it less.
I liked the giant Cthulhu monster that they were fighting. I liked the way the scene played out, where Mark shows up to help his dad and doesn't know that why the Immortal's fighting with them, and doesn't there was a weird balance of having to sort of who's engaged, who's fighting who and why, and I thought they rode that quite well as a sort of balance, and then that reveal where he turns around and we have to talk was good. Yeah. There is I took a picture of it as well, and I'll send it on to you. There's a moment where Mark and his dad are talking to each other, and Eve is very far away, and for some reason they decided to put a little centimeter high Eve in the background right next to Omni-Man's head, and I honestly thought that they just smudged the background or something. I had to get up and get close to the screen and go, oh, it's Eve a kilometer away. You take that out. It doesn't need to be there.
Brian watches it in the background. Aiden's literally getting up close to the TV, examining it.
Well, you see, I watched it too closely is the problem at the start, so I'm trying to watch it less intensely now.
And they, as Omni-Man turned on the Immortal and fought him, and they had this sort of the news coverage happening, and you started to see people around the world watching on. Is there any question in your mind that isn't cast and crew drawn into the show? They're way too specific compared to other character designs?
Oh, you're so right, because I was going to say some of those people were more detailed than Mark and fucking Omni-Man themselves.
Yeah.
Some of those, dead right. I was literally watching it kind of going they have to be a nod to somebody. Why are there mustache and hair and different things and their stubble, whatever? Why are things so rendered?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It cuts to three people staring at a phone, and it's there's...
I missed that shot. I'll have to go back and check it out.
You will, yeah. It was that's where all their budget went to, Brian.
But next week episode is going to be 40 minutes of Mark and Omni-Man beating shite out of each other then.
Yeah.
Unless they do last week's episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier and they get it out of the way in the first 3 minutes, and then we just have to watch him talk to his mom for 37 minutes.
It'll probably be that. Knowing this show.
Brian cannot wait.
I can't wait to listen to it.
We'll send you screenshots of all the interesting stuff, Brian, don't worry.
Dude, thank
Churlish and insubordinate.
Perfunctory.
If Eve can manipulate the atoms of anything and everything,
yes.
Why does she not simply make a cup of coffee?
Yes. Why doesn't
rather
she
than
just
making
do
beans, making ground beans?
She's fucking Wanda. She can have a Wanda vision. She could just manipulate anything.
It would also be better for the environment if she was just had just coffee all there. Also, I understand what you're saying about her coffee and stuff, but technically Eve must be the most powerful being in that whole show.
Yeah, she's Wanda.
Yeah, she's just taking a back seat in all Mark's and his dad's bullshit.
I'm going to tell you this, and I know you'll tell me I don't give a shit, or why don't they make that clear, or this is bullshit. But even as I was being glib and dismissive, though I don't think this falls into the category that she should be unable to do it. I didn't read that they did a one-off where they explained where she got her powers, and she is a fucking experiment, and they put a bloody limiter on her. And they get into stuff later on in the books where it's when she's nearly dead, it bypasses the safety protocols, and she basically rebuilds her entire body from the ground up.
That's super convenient for the plot.
But I know what you're saying. It's convenient to the plot, but they haven't even said it. But I think she could have just been able to make a cup of coffee, rather generate the beans, grind the beans, move them to the coffee cafetiere, add water. Anyway, it was a pretty... Let's move on. So, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Did you watch it, Brian?
Yes. I was watching, yes.
How was it?
I liked it, but it was clunky. It was kind of creaky.
Can I just say one thing before we get kind of too into it?
Go on.
And it really annoyed me when I watched it. Captain America's shield versus office chair. Not much.
The shield makes no sense.
The shield makes no sense. He throws it through buildings and all that kind of stuff, and
just never question the shield. like Cap has thrown it a bunch of times and it won't bounce back. It'll hit the ground. It's like, I guess it just didn't do it that time. Like that happens all the time. You can't question the shield. The shield makes no sense. It makes no
All
sense.
I'm saying is, I want that chair.
Oh,
That was a sturdy chair.
Batroc starts carrying a chair around.
Yeah. Chairman. It works. He's an evil chairman of a corporation of indestructible chairs. But Bartok kicks a chair at the shield. Cap throws the shield, or Falcon at the time throws the shield, and they kind of just go clunk and hit the ground together. Not great. I've seen the shield do some pretty impressive stuff.
So at the start of it, does Falcon say, "I've called in some backup"? Does that mean Sharon?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't quite read that because it felt like Sharon sort of showed up of her own volition immediately after that, and then I'm like, okay, maybe we're going to get that other Falcon guy. Is it Torres? Maybe we're going to get
very clunky.
Somebody out of S.H.I.E.L.D. like Colby Smulders shows up, but I feel like Kobe's in space.
Kobe's in space.
Did you like the new suit?
Certain shots, it looked like the first shot when I saw him, I was like, oh, that looks cool. And then another shot, you're like, oh, that look like. There's some shots where it looks like a fucking zip up tracksuit top.
Yeah, it's
What
big.
is happening here?
Sometimes it has big shoulder pads, and I think US Agent's suit and say Captain America's suit are a little bit more tailored or form fitting to a degree. And it looks like maybe it's to do with the whole pilot and the flying and all that kind of stuff. But it does look like he's wearing like 80s overalls or overalls with like a belt around the waist of it. I do like the suit and I think the design's cool. I just think it could be more tailored, more form-fitting.
It needs more of a balance between the white and the red. I love the fact that there's so much white in it and it looked great at nighttime, but then the red looks really out of place on it in some shots.
I liked it though, ultimately.
I did think that the I don't want to say I had a problem, but if you're trying to hide the visual effects gray areas, you set everything at night.
Oh yeah.
You know, and it was very dark in places.
His mask as well, it's got this kind of wing pattern, so it curves up, but it doesn't work at all. Like when he's giving a serious talk and he's got these two lines that are like curling upwards, it undermines everything he's saying.
I missed the little red star on Bucky's arm. Can we get that back? Can we get him a can of spray paint?
No.
These aren't the major things that stood out to you as you were watching the show?
No.
The Flag Smasher Super Soldiers are going up against.
Well, see, it's kind of implied at the end that they were Sharon's muscle, so that they were some sort of like mercenary or something, and then she gave them, or she gave Carly at least, the serum. But it like that line kind of implies that like they worked for her beforehand, and they didn't work for her just doing like, you know, bits and bobs. They had, I guess they would have had to have some type of training, combat training or something.
Okay, because I was definitely watching this going, Bucky's 90 years old combat veteran with super strength, and Carly looks like she's done a bit of parkour, I guess. Like, why is he not just strength one way or another? Like, what is it? Training beats strength.
But this is always the thing with this stuff, and it's kind of nitpicky, but it kind of breaks the rules and logic of
the Winter Soldier should have been able to beat the snot out of them.
Why can't Bucky why can't he just punch a hole in the armored car rather than trying to pull the locking thing off it? Like, he could just literally rip a hole in the side of it. He doesn't need to pull off the device that's locking the doors. He can literally tear a hole in the side of the thing. That kind of stuff. That's stuff. Again, it seems like nitpicks, but it's stuff that breaks the kind of the context and the rules.
Overall, like, it was a cool.
I liked it, but
it was really enjoyable sequence. It was like
I did like it, but it was the episode as a whole kind of creaked a bit. You know, it was kind of
John Walker showed up with that shield was too good. at least on the front face of it, for what he was.
It
we
didn't
saw
get
him
taken
hitting with a hammer.
It didn't get taken down by a chair, you know. He made it with a box of scraps in a cave with a box of scraps, and it did better than desk office chair.
It had a really good polish to it, though. Do you know what I mean? Like he put some time into the finish. I like that the sound was different when it hit off of things because it's not vibranium. You know, it had a real clanky
clunk. Yeah. So basically, though, I think would we agree that John Walker, in some degree, redeemed himself?
He did a bit, but then the show was too quick to forgive him. Like when he drops the shield to save those people, okay, that's the show signifying that like he's on maybe a redemption path. But then the show is too quick to forgive
shakes
him.
off his manicness. He closes his eyes and goes, I'm going to save lives.
Yeah.
That bit with Val then as well was also felt very rushed. It felt like they filmed those two scenes on the same day, and then just inserted one in one episode and another later. And like he's delighted to be U.S. agent, as if that title has any meaning. He's like, yay! It's like, what? Are we celebrating with him now? Like, what's
good costume though?
I like Marvel content. I enjoyed the show. I had a good time with that this morning. I can tear through it for like clunky writing. Like when
this is
Sharon
this is the
confront
thing.
each other
Like,
downstairs. You remind me of a young me, is what she says.
at the end of the day, it's still a good show. Like, you know, you compare it to like Luke Cage, which was a very, very clunky show that just in the end didn't work. You kind of want to stick with it from the start, but by the time you get to the end, you're like, this is bad. You know, it's so much. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is so much better. Like, for all the things that I will kind of point out, like saying, "Oh, this didn't make much sense," and that, like, it's still a good show. Like, I still quite liked it. It's just.
So basically, my question is: are we going to see elements of this being brought into the MCU, like the in the theaters, or are we going to see?
Well, they're making Captain America 4 with.
They're making Captain America 4.
Yeah,
so
they announced that, did they?
Yeah. I've seen that, and so. Are they going to make... Also, I love the end credits when it said Captain America and the Winter Soldier. I love that. That was brilliant. But are we going to see a season 2 of this show? And is that going to address stuff like US Agent and Val and Sharon? Or is that going to be stuff that you think they're going to address in the Captain America movie?
I think Val and Sharon is going to be Secret War or Secret Invasion and Armor Wars shows. I think Captain America is going to be a film. It's not going to deal with the kind of TV level stuff next, much in the same way that WandaVision is going to be in Doctor Strange. The Sharon Power Broker stuff made zero sense. Like, why did she take them to the scientist in Madripoor and then like bring Zemo to him, knowing the threat Zemo presented to him, knowing that this is her like golden goose, and then she gets attacked by a bunch of people that like. Who were those people? If she's the power broker, who is she fighting when they're inside the lab?
See, that's
makes no sense.
That's the thing I see when I'm watching this, is that we love Bucky and Sam. We're interested in John Walker. And we're happy to see their plots move forward. But the stuff that's done it is wobbly as fuck. Like, the power broker shit makes no sense. The Flag Smasher stuff was undermined by, I guess, COVID and the pandemic storyline being scrapped. So all we've really got, like, the real arc of this story then is Sam meeting Isaiah Bradley and coming to terms with what it means to be Captain America as a black man in America, and Bucky learning to connect with a family.
Also, him apologizing to the
old Japanese man.
Terrible. Fucking awful scene. Like,
the only way I could justify that
all?
scene in my head was to go, we're seeing like a montage of what he said, because I would start with, you don't know this about me, but I was brainwashed for 60 years and not in control of anything that I did.
Why bother?
Let's set that up first.
Yeah, like the Winter Soldier killed your son, and it was me, and that's it. That's the end of the scene. It's like awful.
It's one of those conversations where you see in a show where you're just like, This is about to be a fight between a husband and wife, and all he's going is no, 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 rather than going, look, this looks bad, but what really happened is this person walked in here, tripped up, landed on my crotch. Like, use fucking words.
Yes, it was a bit stiff.
That was my excuse. She tripped up and landed on my crotch.
But I think they had the Captain America had his big talky moment to the politician stuff, which I loved. I thought that was great, like piece of dialogue myself personally. But maybe kind of after that, they didn't want to get into another big thing. Even though I don't think it would have been an issue, but maybe that's why they didn't do it.
It needs it though. Like, leave it out if you're not going to do.
Yeah.
Like, just.
I thought it was stranger when he was looking in the window and he saw the old man with the young lady that works in the restaurant and bar. I thought that was a little bit more of an odd scene, because it's just like, is she coming out to him? Is she not saying anything to him? Is he not going to say anything to her? Very odd. And then he just walks away. And he gives away Captain America's little book.
Yeah.
And we still don't know where Steve is.
On the moon. On the moon.
Do you know what? They've said Captain America's on the moon so many times in that show. He's on the moon.
He's on the moon.
Have they said it that many times? They've said it like
they've said
two or three times.
Said it 2 or 3 times over the course of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I thought Captain America was on the moon. I bet you old man Steve is up there with Nick Fury doing some Secret Wars bullshit.
I bet they just want to leave the door open for Chris Evans to come back, is all it is.
Captain America's on the moon.
They didn't say it that often, though.
They said it. I mean,
they didn't say it that often.
But it would be funny, especially as they're setting up Skrull stuff.
Speaking of Skrull stuff, Emilia Clarke.
I don't.
I like her.
I want to be careful on this thing, because it's like I work in the animation industry and I've done some acting stuff, and like I want to eventually work in other things, you know. But like Emilia Clarke, I don't know that she works really great in genre stuff. I think that she played a great sort of queen in.
I'd keep that to yourself. Just let me be the one saying divisive things. Don't be.
Okay. So I'm a big fan of Emilia Clarke, and I enjoyed her in Game of Thrones. Her Sarah Connor in Terminator was pretty good as well. I mean, I thought she really brought something to the role. And then, is it Last Christmas, or what was the Christmas movie she made? Like, that was just a heartwarming Christmas perennial classic. Brian, what do you think about Emilia Clarke?
Yay! Me too.
I think you're full of shit, Aidan. That was the biggest load of bullshit I've ever heard. I've heard you personally attack that woman. Like, I don't know why you felt the need to put on this masquerade. This is egregious. You're so full of shit.
I will not be slandered like this. You know damn well I'm a big Emilia Clarke fan.
Okay. Cool. Let's see what she does in Secret Invasion.
Oh, she's gonna fuck that shit up.
Just speaking of Emilia Clarke, the post-credit scenes of Sharon being reinstated by the government and then saying,
"What the fuck is that?" That's
who is she talking to? If she's the power broker,
I like this show, but I don't know. Do I like this show? Like, she's going back to being her old spot with Shield was like undercover agent. It was grunt work. You live next to the guy and you report.
Yeah.
I've built a new life in the last 5 years. I don't want to go back and be a foot soldier for Shield. It's mad to think that she's going to roll in and have high level access. Even if they do give her role back, if you've had somebody who betrayed you, went on the run for 5 years, are you ever giving that woman top level clearance again to get near anything useful? I mean, maybe they give her pension back. I'm putting a real civil service spin on this stuff.
That's the show I want to watch.
Oh God, you watch too much of the bloody West Wing.
No, she does the Wire thing where she just sort of falls down the stairs and takes the comp.
I don't have an issue with that story arc as such. You know, I would question is like how her, because of who she was and speaking at Peggy's funeral and all that kind of stuff. She was very like she was almost she had I would have likened her Captain America's in terms of values and stuff, and I just couldn't see Captain America even going off the grid or being disenfranchised by the whole government and the American.
But who's she talking to on the phone? I
couldn't see him turning on it, and she just turned on it, and it doesn't seem. I just don't know why she would. She was literally somebody who grew up with Peggy as an example, obviously pursued government job and things, and then.
That could all be a cover. I mean, they could very easily say that she's always been this person. You know, that she was like, I hated my aunt. My aunt was a load of shit. That woman never shut the fuck up. I hated her ever since I was a kid. It could all be an act, you know.
Jeez.
But who's she talking to on the phone? Who's she calling up saying, line up the buyers?
Val, right?
But why can't they show us that then? Like, why keep it a secret? Who's she talking to? And then in the shipyard where she's like, we've got a problem, and she's on the phone saying we've got a couple of problems. Who's she talking to? She's the power broker. Like what's going on? It makes no sense.
And would the power broker not give themselves powers? Well, maybe she doesn't. She just doesn't use them. I give myself powers.
If you're the power broker, you would give yourself powers.
Yes.
So we got Loki coming up in
June.
2 weeks.
I thought it was May. It's June.
It's June.
I thought it was May, but according to Disney Plus, it is June.
All right. Well, we have one more week of Invincible.
Yeah,
anyway.
June 11. June 11. He's right. We have. What did you say, Brian? Jupiter's Legacy.
Nothing to watch. Guess I'm drinking for a bit.
Did you see that Russell Crowe is cast as Zeus in Thor: Love and Thunder?
Oh, I didn't. Very good.
Christian Bale's character is a god killer, and his sort of arc is tearing through pantheons. So I feel like he's going to show up and kick the shit out of Russell Crowe. But it does open the door for Hercules.
Hercules. I used to read a lot of Avengers back in the day, and I think Alan Davis was probably the artist on the book, and he would have done, say, different stages, and I think Hercules was in it. I think it was Alan Davis, but it was just, it's so funny. Like, and I grew up watching the Adventures of Hercules with Kevin Sorbo. It's really interesting, historically accurate stuff. I love it, but it's funny. I'll buy Thor, but I just can't buy Hercules in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, and this thing, like, Asgardians make sense because like Nordic mythology really lends itself to like that. There's a lot of time travel aspects to like Norse mythology. It really lends itself to science fiction. You can buy the Asgardians not being people like, you know, up in the sky. They're from another planet or dimension. Where are the Olympians? Are the Olympians then also another race similar to Asgardians? Like, how does I can buy Thor, I can't buy.
Yeah.
I've never been able to buy into Hercules. Like, is he literally Hercules then? Where
If you've got Russell Crowe playing Zeus, who do you think is Hercules? And when you think of that Hercules and the leather harness kind of like muscle bear vibe,
Kevin Sorbo now.
Joe Manganiello?
Who's
Manganiello? Joe Manganiello?
I watched him. I was watching a movie with him the other day called Arch Enemy, and it's awful. Could be a good Hercules.
He'd be a good Hercules.
The man who was Tarzan, he's one of the Stark guards or whatever. Alexander.
I think you could be onto something with Manganiello, though, right?
I think so.
Because he's done big, broad comedy stuff as well. Like, he was in that Pee Wee Herman movie a few years back as well. So he can, like, because I don't...
Jason Momoa?
As much as Thor has become this kind of comedy version of what Thor...
He's got to be a himbo,
was.
Basically.
Yeah, Hercules was the comedy version of Thor. You know, he was the silly, getting drunk, let's get pissed, have a little bit of a brawl, bring me wine, women and partying, you know, kind of version of Thor.
And men we don't touch. Nothing.
Yeah, but he's Greek.
yeah.
I keep thinking we're going to try and find Tom Hardy into this universe. But where the hell does he fit?
Tom Hardy. Venom.
Oh, he's Venom, isn't he? Fucking hell.
I know, I reckon...
It's a waste. It's a waste of Tom
reckon
Hardy.
if they wanted to, I think they'd just take him for something else if they wanted to. I don't think
it's not
anybody...
Stop them,
Like, put it this way, Venom's not in the MCU. So if Christian Bale can go from Batman to this god killer...
But Venom's tied to the Tom Holland
Not yet.
Spider-Man
Not
stuff.
yet, though.
Sony. Not yet.
Not
but
yet.
It
well,
might not be,
thinking
though.
of, like, you know,
It's far enough away that they can...
Yeah, Chris Evans can go from the Human Torch to Captain America.
I don't think that happens, then, because they're working on the Venom with Woody Harrelson shit's going on. They've kind of connected that to Michael Keaton from the Holland Homecoming.
They haven't yet, though. It's only been a sting in a trailer. Like, it hasn't happened, and it might not happen. So it's very far down the line.
Is there anything else anyone wants to touch on before we wrap this up?
Well, yeah, I think everybody should, like, what's their takeaway from the Captain America and the Winter Soldier, you know? I think my one, ultimately, good. I liked it. Definitely struggled in areas. Did I like it as much as WandaVision? I don't think so. I actually think I liked, I don't know, I think I liked aspects of WandaVision.
No, I'd agree with you there.
Yeah, I think I liked aspects of WandaVision more, although I think, because I prefer, I think within the books, I would have loved the likes of Scarlet Witch and Vision, no problem. You know, I was very much enamored with those characters. With the show ending, both seasons ending, I think WandaVision stands in a much better place to tie into the MCU and to still be up there with the other movies. I feel like finishing Winter Soldier, it's just like, what's going to happen to Val, what's going to happen to John, what's going to happen to Sharon, and it's just like, I don't think these plot lines or these characters they're not big enough to kind of take any real precedence in the MCU in the movies, say, for example. Now I know you're doing Captain America, they're going to do Captain America 4, and that's great, but it's just, I think walking away, I feel like WandaVision ties into the MCU more than the Winter Soldier does.
I think I know what you're saying in terms of, like, there's direct lines out of WandaVision. There's Wanda's story, there's the Vision character out there in the world, there's maybe the Sword universe with Monica Rambeau. But coming out of Captain America or Falcon the Winter Soldier, there are so many threads that I feel like a lot of them are just going to get ignored.
Yes, yeah, and that's what I think. Unless it's a season 2 and it addresses them, or else if like the Captain America movie addresses them, I just feel like, yeah, WandaVision ties up nicer, fits into the MCU. I can see Rambeau being Captain Marvel. I can see her doing that. Do you know what I mean?
It's just taking a step back, but like when Sam gets to give his speech to the senators and the council and this and the other, it's just coming from knowing the type of person that is in that job. He could talk all fucking day long. Those people aren't hearing him. You know what I mean? That type of person goes to political debates or sits on news shows and has the argument made to them from the other perspective fucking regularly. But they've got their agenda.
They've got their
agenda.
Yes,
they're not changing their mind
yeah,
based on what
like
Captain America's saying.
They're
to them on a
ignorant
street corner.
pieces of shit to a degree, you know. But like, obviously it's a TV show, and we'd like them to kind of say, for them to be able to listen to Captain America, listen to Falcon, you know. But we're like, yeah, it's probably not the reality of it. But I did love Sam's monologue there. I did love it. I'm really happy with Sam, and I'm really happy with Sam being Captain America, because I think he flying around with the wings and incorporating the shield and stuff. I initially said I wanted him without the wings and just have the shield, but I think he was phenomenal, and I'm just like, great, that's a great Captain America. I love it.
Did we talk about the Isaiah Bradley element of?
No.
Do you think that tied up neatly enough? Do you think that sets up the grandson as, I think he's Patriot?
Yes.
Is the kid's name?
Yeah.
Is his name is Isaiah Bradley? Has he been living under an alias? Do they say that he had him because they escaped from prison and they changed his name or something? So he's living under something other.
They faked his death or something. So
like, Sam didn't just out the guy in hiding, did he?
That's what I mean. Like, they must have reinstated him correctly and stuff for that to happen. I would have liked to have seen a statue, or I would have liked to have seen, like, kind of like, do you know that scene in Ant-Man 2? You see the kind of the archive footage of Hank Pym fighting people in World War II. I would have loved to have seen some kind of like museum presentation of Isaiah doing a few bits and pieces with the shield, say, or something to that effect. I would have liked more of that, because I thought that, like, I think that's just cool. I love that kind of history stuff in comics.
At the same time, if they weren't going to do it right, I'm glad they didn't do it at all.
Well, this is true. But yeah, that's my takeaway from it ultimately, anyways.
Well, then the last thing I'll talk about then is the Oscars are coming up this weekend. So we've got a couple of Irish films in there as well. Wolf Walkers is nominated for the Irish animation end of things. I know some people that worked on that, and good luck to them and their nominations.
Congratulations to them. Good luck.
Congratulations. To them, I don't know if Sonic the Hedgehog got many nominations. There was a big push for that last year, as it was one of the few films that got released in 2020 successfully. I don't know, was that nominated for Best Picture?
Well, if it's not, it should be. You know what I mean?
I mean, all of the VFX work that went into animating Sonic the Hedgehog and then immediately reanimating them when they realized that it was not what the audience wanted.
Conspiracy.
Chadwick is nominated for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Is that the name of the movie?
I don't know now. I haven't seen any of the Oscar covers or who's nominated. I did watch that short that's on Netflix, Two Distant Strangers, which is very good. It's another Groundhog Day type scenario. You should watch it.
I watched the trailer for The Father, which Anthony Hopkins is nominated for, and it's one of the Olivia Colman's in it, and Anthony Hopkins, and a few other people. It's one of these things that it looks amazing, but I don't think I could stand to watch it because it's an old man suffering from dementia, and you see this one scene. From what I gather from the trailer and from people talking about it, things like Olivia Colman's playing his daughter, but there's also another actress playing his daughter, and it's like from one shot to the next, it will change who the actor playing his family is, and he's becoming kind of aware in the middle of scenes, and it's a complete confusion as to what the moment is. Or there is a sense in the trailer as well that there's they might be trying to take advantage of him, or his paranoia starts kicking in as well. It looks fucking heartbreaking, and he's nominated for an Oscar for it, so I assume it probably lands somewhere in the middle of that. Brian, you're very quiet. Have you any thoughts on the Oscars?
Award shows are stupid. The Oscars suck. They're very forgettable. Look at the Best Picture for the last 10 years, and when was the last time you heard anybody talk about any of those films? The Oscars are stupid.
Parasite. I talk about it frequently.
This is the first time I've ever heard you mention Parasite. I'm just reminded of American Hustle. American Hustle. American Hustle is like a perfect example of Oscar fodder, basically, because it's just one of those films where
never heard of it.
Everybody was talking about it in the run up to the Oscars, and it's every year. People are always talking about all these films in the run up to the Oscars, and the stuff that deserves to win. Parasite being a recent exception. Stuff that deserves to win rarely wins. Moonlight deserved to win, and there was that whole fucking debacle, Award shows are stupid. Who gives a fuck about award shows? Come on. Eat the rich.
Thanks for coming along to another episode of The End of the Stream. We'll see you next week. We will be talking about Invincible. We will be talking about Speed Racer. We will be talking about all the stuff we didn't get a chance to talk about today, unless it happened while I was out of the room. I had Aidan Turner's new show about Leonardo da Vinci.
Da Vinci.
Army of the Dead. Da Vinci. Ted Lasso Season 2 is coming. I don't know if you guys watched Ted Lasso Season 1, but I will basically watch anything with Jason Sudeikis in it.
I love him, yeah.
Same.
MODOK. Did I mention MODOK is on the list as well? Those Who Wish Me Dead with Angelina Jolie fighting fires.
What's the film about? Ba-dum.
Okay. I did reread the new Deadwardians. I enjoyed it a lot. Kevin started, I think you're on issue 2.
Yes.
We might have a chat about that next week. Yep. I still think that there's if not a movie, I think there's a mini-series, like a 3-episode mini-series or 4-episode mini-series in this book. I think it's a fun concept.
Do you know, it's interesting to say,
with a lot of supernatural shit.
Do you know who'd be good to make that? The guys who did Good Omens. Nice, contained series.
I didn't like
if
Good
the likes
Omens.
of if David Tennant or what's his name, Michael Sheen, is it? I could see them. But anyway, all I'm saying is you are right. It would make a great limited series and nothing more than that. Yeah.
I didn't quite enjoy Good Omens either. I watched it and I tried to enjoy it, but I think that
I've tried to watch it twice and I can't get into it.
I think the thing for me is Gilliam works in books, and I've not seen a Gilliam film adaptation that I've enjoyed. And as much as people attribute that to Neil Gaiman,
Do you mean Pratchett or Gaiman?
Pratchett doesn't work
Pratchett.
in books.
Sorry, I'm mixing
Pratchett.
everybody up. I made Terry Pratchett, Terry Gilliam.
God, I haven't heard of his name in years.
Terry Gilliam.
Forgot Neil Gaiman. Terry Pratchett works in books. The Hogfather,
Yes,
the Color of Magic. I didn't enjoy these shows on Sky. I don't think they necessarily transfer to
That's fair
film.
enough.
They're the kind of ludicrous concepts that are great when you think about them and you read them, but when you try and put them on in prop form, they don't quite work.
Yeah, it's like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, bullshit movie.